Welcome to the Performing Arts Center here at Lawrence High School for this morning's White Fund Lecture Series, the next installment featuring the poet Carlos Contreras. My name is Richard Gorham. I'm the English Department Chair here at the Lawrence High School campus. For many years, Lawrence High School and the greater Lawrence community have benefited from an extraordinary partnership between the White Fund Foundation, Northern Essex Community College, and the Lawrence Public Schools. The White Fund Enlightenment Series has brought people such as Chris Herron and Ernesto Quinones, and just 2 weeks ago, the poet Richard Blanco to Lawrence to enrich our school and our community. On October 29th, we will welcome the documentary film Inocente, and on March 6th, the journalist Raquel Cepeda will grace our stage. Thanks to our partners, all of these events are free and open to the public and open to all of the students of Lawrence High School. On behalf of Lawrence High School, I'd like to thank Martha Levitt, Eileen Bernal, and the rest of the board of the White Fund for making this event happen, and Dr. Lane Glenn, president of Northern Essex Community College, for their extraordinary efforts to enrich our school and our community. Let's give them a hand, the people who made it happen. And now it's time to welcome our speaker of the morning, Mr. Carlos Contreras. Mr. Contreras is a national champion performance poet. He got his start in competitive spoken word. He currently teaches high school English in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He is skipping school to be with us today. He also leads writing workshops in the adult prison and hosts the National Hispanic Cultural Center's Voces program, which is a writing center for youth. He will also be appearing tonight at the Altair Bookstore and Cafe on Essex Street in downtown Lawrence at 6:30. We're very excited to have him here. Please give it up for Carlos Contreras.
Good morning, how are you guys? You good? So, whoa, that was crazy. My name's Carlos Contreras. I'm a teacher, I'm an artist, a poet, obviously, or I wouldn't be standing right here. But I'm here to speak with you today, and I'm just happy to be here. So we're gonna roll through some things. I'm gonna show you a little bit about what I do. We're gonna have a conversation, and we're gonna take it from there. But rather than talking at you, I'll do a poem to tell you a little bit about who I am. I'm not your typical poet, not your typical teacher. For that matter, I'm not your typical man either. I'm simply something different than something like yourselves. I'm the awkward direction of these curved lines and the limitation of these verbs. I'm a situation that's completely reliant on the comfort of words. I'm a hungry wolf and a flock of birds, sitting duck heart on another tune of differently strung piano keys. I'm the rib cage that holds the beast that beats inside of me. I'm the acid in the stomach that eats the lining between breakfast and a dinner that hasn't yet been bought. The weight of moving out of a house that didn't feel like home. But I'm not your typical introvert, coffee drinking, heart bleeding, wannabe Ginsburg or otherwise. I'm the collection of coins in my pocket, the mass of cash and consciousness that I'm holding. Small town, wannabe big city kid, promoting anything art motivated. This life might not be much sometimes, but I made it. Like a grandma that grew up Great Depression heavy, a father bootstrap bleed green Marine, a mama that ain't take no mess. I'm 3 times blessed, once heartbroken, never late, always early or right on time. Maybe better off defined, not as a poem, but a collection of lines. Undefinable, heart and mic chords, grit and business savvy, tattooed respectability, ingrained in me, morals more than skin deep. I'm only as good as the knowledge that I speak. I'd rather not talk at you. Let's speak. I'm all ears, all heart, all thumbs and 2 left feet. I'm the clumsy one on the dance floor, the backwards dancing victory MC, but this is me. Early riser with annoying amounts of energy. Cigarettes, dirty jeans, and compassion. An answer to any question that you're asking, because I'll act like I know, or we'll figure it out together. I'm alive. So ask me how I've been, I'll say I couldn't be better. Better off writing than speaking sometimes. Unless it's a time like this, I'm everything we've wanted to say since we were kids. Bruised knuckles and a busted lip. I'm serving time on a different kind of bid. Life with the possibility of a point, period, Lines and paragraphs. I'm the story without a line to follow. Stream consciousness into a river of doubt, but today I tread water because I'm not gonna drown, I'm a head above water. With steady shoulders, steady holding, I'm a poker player that never saw use in folding. I'm all in. Today and tomorrow. Call me next week, you'll get the same answer. I'm the question you've been wanting to ask. The last drink in a dirty glass. The future, present, past of you, me. Her, him, and them. This is a victory song for the empty pocket people, the happy hour heroes, and the magic single mother homemakers. Just as much for the staunch right as the far left, because I'm unaccusing and tone deaf, so let's all sing something into it all out of breath. It'd be a song worth not forgetting, somewhat of a moment to remember. But just in case you see me tomorrow, ask me the same question, you'll get the same answer. Say, how you been? I'll say, I couldn't be better. So you'll have to forgive me. I have this weird ear thing going on right now. So I feel like I'm talking underwater. And it happened on the plane ride out here, and it has not gone away. So I don't know what the deal is. Airplanes and pressure on the ears. So if I sound funny, don't worry, I sound funny to me too. So we're all okay. So I write and I teach in Albuquerque and I perform. How many people know what slam poetry is? Anybody? Yeah? All right, cool. And Mayra del Valle, how many people were here to see Mayra del Valle a few weeks ago? Or last year, I guess she was. Richard Blanco's a few weeks ago. Mayra del Valle and I come out of basically the same generation of slam poetry or competitive spoken word. So on teams that Mayra del Valle competed on at the National Poetry Slam, we kind of did this. We butted heads. Because I'm from Albuquerque, she's from California, and we ended up in some bouts together. So I come out of spoken word. I now teach at a high school for incarcerated adults. It's got a campus inside a facility and then outside for folks transitioning back into society. But spoken word lent to this whole process for me. So I'm here today because I ended up on some competitive stages for the last 12 years and did some work in that realm that lent to things like this. And so if you know about it and you want to do it, I'm sure there's a venue somewhere around here. The bookstore I'm going to read at tonight sounds like it plays host to a lot of poetry events. I guess what I'm saying and trying to sell you is please get involved in spoken word. If it's something that interests you after today and you don't do it, you can, right? I saw it for the first time 12 years ago and thought, I could do that. And I haven't stopped doing it since. And it kind of pays the bills, at least in part every month, and has allowed me to see most of the United States. So my sales pitch to you is if you have something in here and up here that you're writing down, please make sure other people are hearing it. And sometimes spoken word, slam poetry as it is one of the best vehicles for that. It is a score-based thing, so if you don't like to compete, don't worry about it. The scores don't mean anything. Just show up and read. Everybody wins and loses in life, and in slam, it's easy to lose and not take it seriously. So I'm going to stop talking at you. Here's another poem. Some of these people are real in this poem. Some of them are fake. You have to figure out who's who. First person's real. I work with a girl who never watches the previews or reads the backs of books. She sleeps away the dreams tucked beneath the mattress and writes love letters along the edges of dirty napkins. She says, love's easier to throw away when things get a little messy. She tangles hair around her index and cashes in smiles like rent checks. Needless to say, she shows up to slang coffee each day with her bills paid in full. I know a little boy with lightning in his fingertips and thunder in his belly who can barely contain himself when he has a story to tell me. Sammy, a tiny soldier with boots laced for a march in any direction you're walking, as long as you got an open ear, because he's always got a mouth that's talking. This little boy has seen far more than the world should have thrown at him this far, yet he wears wounded memories like battle scars. He's brave. I know a man who feels like he's past the point of where he can be saved. A 12-ounce champ who never goes down for the count but has a hard time figuring out what day it is. So he just lives for the now and things, for the cool comfort of a quarter in his palm, or the hot beat of the concrete beneath his feet, the feel of this gritty city between his teeth. He tells me life's easier this way because otherwise people would drive him crazy. I know a lady who juggles 4 families or more on any given day, but always has time when a granddaughter wants to play. My mother. A simple set of hands and feet that accomplishes unimaginable feats. She's beautiful. A Mack truck filled from grill to bumper with all business. Listen, she works her way around a kitchen the way a doctor does, an operating room, and controls many lives like a producer does from his recording booth. She's mastering as we speak. I know a man who speaks confidently through these sheets, a poet who's never felt comfortable in my own skin. So I decided to decorate it anew. Emblems, ornaments, adornments. I'm fancying myself a painting of ugly beautiful, a collage of where I've been and what I know. These people are a gaudy collection of heads, shoulders, knees, and toes. These ears know the sounds of a city. Streets sharing themselves with little boys and ladies, with drunken men who convince themselves they're not the one that's crazy, you are. So get used to it. It's simple. We're human. A trash heap of organs and emotions, of fingernails and promises cut short after the animals. We as a failed attempt or God's last resort for perfection. We're not perfect. We're bad days built of nothing more than bottle caps. Forget front teeth. We're the little boy who at Christmas says, all I want is Dad to come back. We're underappreciated human beings who hold lives together with willed wishes and lost sleep. Was simple. Simple in a way that could never be perfect. For fear of forgetting or complicating how we got here. We're simply human. Y'all doing all right? So, this poetry thing, and don't worry, the mic isn't like messing with me. This is just kind of my nervous tick. So, I always play with a mic stand when you're like moving through something. But this poetry thing has really kind of advanced my life. It's made me aware of who I am and why I'm here. And that's been a long process. When I was like 15 to 19, who's like 15, 16, 17 in here? Yeah? Cool. I started this when I was 17 years old. I played 3 sports a year at 17 years old. I came from a dual-parent household. I went to a private school. Why am I telling you all that? Because I didn't really have a rough upbringing, right? Everything was there for me, and I'm quite grateful for having that. But although all of those things were present and that situation was the way it was, I was still a pretty angry and confused young man. And it wasn't until I found this, I saw it in a classroom, 17 years old, guy walks in, jeans on, probably a little bit dirtier than these jeans, hat, just regular old cat, right? Walks in, reads some poems about his life, and something made sense. And from that day forward, I felt like what I had in here mattered to say out loud. I didn't have to hold it in anymore. My release at that time was sports, but it just didn't do enough for me. When I found the competitive stage, when I found the open mic scene, when I found poetry as I know it today, my whole life, even though that might sound cliche, made sense. And I didn't have to like be quiet anymore. And poetry became a place where it was okay to say whatever I needed to say. And so now, when I do things like this, it's like the best thing in the world, right? Because somebody today might leave here and think it's okay to take that journal out from under the bed and like take it down to the bookstore tonight. Just saying. Come down to the bookstore tonight. We'll make it a space for more than just myself to read. So all I'm saying is if you write, if you feel like you have something to say, please do. right? Because at 17 years old, I was angry and confused, and at 29 years old, I'm still sort of angry and confused. But this allows me to be that way and still be okay. And I work with folks that didn't have that outlet and are now, 30, 45, 65 years old and part of my jail writing program. And things are starting to make sense, right? The emotions they have locked up inside, the emotions they use drugs to deal with or violence to deal with are now making sense on a page. It's not too late for them, but it's a harder path now. And if they'd had this or the ability to speak earlier in life, felt like they could speak earlier in life, had somebody that encouraged that earlier in life, they might not be in that situation. So if you feel like you don't have anybody to talk to in your home or in your neighborhood or a group of friends, find an open mic reading. Boston is huge on poetry, by the way. So I'm sure you all know that, but I'm just saying, find one, because I know there's got to be some readings around here, and those people will listen. I like to take questions throughout, because it makes me more comfortable, and I talk a lot. So does anybody have a question? No question's a bad question, my dear. Very cool. She said, who's the guy that I saw that made me want to do this? His name's Ken Rodriguez. And so if you went home and Googled him, you'd find some stuff on him. Ken Rodriguez in Poetry Slam, I guess in Albuquerque, is much like Run DMC was to hip hop, right? Like when Albuquerque had Poetry Slam start, Ken Rodriguez was one of the ones pushing it along. And the crazy thing about that, to answer your question that you asked and then add to it, because that's what I always do, I saw him 2001, I don't know what month it must have been, perform, do his thing. 7 months later, I ended up on a competitive slam team with him. So that was in 2001, I was 17 years old. 4 years later, we're on a slam team together again, and we won a national championship together. So my inspiration to do this is really cool, because then I ended up winning the Super Bowl of poetry with the dude, right? And now he's one of my best friends in the whole world. Was at my wedding. I see him pretty much all the time. Became like a big brother in some senses. So there's community to be found in this thing. There's inspiration in that community to be found. Somebody else? Sir. So you said you're still angry and confused now. What are you still angry and confused about? I think life it's a hard thing to live, and I look at the upbringing and the environment and what you guys are going through now. And at 17 years old, I didn't have all the pressure that you all have, so I can only imagine, right? But simple things, my man, like bills, right? Nobody likes to get a bill. Happens. But just getting through life is kind of a confusing thing. Can be a challenging thing. I guess I wouldn't say so much angry, but just confused and stressed. And some people, when you're stressed out, when you're angry, whatever, go to the gym, right? Lift weights. Some people go to church, do that whole faith-based approach. This is my church. This is my gym, right? So when things aren't making sense or when things are too much, I write it down, right? So, everybody else? Okay. Did somebody else back there? No. Who listens to hip hop? Oh, back there. Sorry, ma'am. Very cool. Before I saw slam, did I write poetry? This is really weird. I've always loved to talk. My wife will tell you that. We've known each other 10 years. I don't think I've shut up. My mom has known me 29 years. As soon as I can make noise, I never stopped. But yes, I've always written, actually. Before I could spell, I literally would carry around a journal and write down some letters, be like, Mom, what does that spell? Nothing, son. Okay. Mom, what does that spell, right? So before I could spell, I would write. And then it was really kind of interesting because slam poetry to me is a pretty narrative art form. Like people tell stories, right? About life, about politics, about whatever may be going on in the world. To me, it's mostly narrative poetry. I liked to write a lot of creative nonfiction as a kid. I liked to write about myself, my life. I kept like a diary or a journal. That's not a bad thing, men, okay? If you keep a diary or a journal, not a bad thing at all. I have 2 older brothers that said it was, and now I'm here and they're at home, so. But I always wrote, so when I found slam, it just made sense because other people would listen and not like offer me $5 to stop talking, because that was another thing. Be like, Carlos, 5 minutes. Just for 5 minutes, I'll give you $5. Never, 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 never. All right, who listens to hip hop? Yeah. Who listens to radio? Okay, a lot fewer hands, thank you very much. I meant like hip hop on the radio. If you do, you might hate this poem. It's okay if you do. So I was raised by like Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Eazy-E, Bone Thugs. Those were like my storytellers growing up, right? Quote unquote gangster rap, yeah. I think it gets a bad rap, quite honestly. I refer to like the like late 80s, early 90s gangster rap era as the narrative era of hip hop. So I think in a lot of ways, like the songs that like Ice Cube made or Dr. Dre made or Snoop Dogg made were very misunderstood. Tupac Shakur. People like hated on it, right? Biggie. I think a lot of America hated on it because it was truth. And it was an ugly truth that was happening in urban centers. And so instead of listening to it and validating it by listening to it, they like labeled it bad and turned it off, right? Now today, I feel like hip hop has lost a lot of lyrical content, has lost a lot of point and meaning. And it's like, you could say a hook like 75 times in a song and talk about money and girls and cars and go platinum. And I have a problem with that. So this poem talks about that problem. Sorry, my ears are weird, man. It's crazy. Okay. I just realized all these weird like asides I'm doing are being videotaped. Hi, YouTube. There she was, hip hop, dirty and half beat to death, stripped of all the meaning and bleeding with only the tongues of Adidas shell-toe sneakers left. It blew my mind to find this beautiful, braggadocious, beat-driven beast in need of breath, so in a name, I sing. In the name of Christopher Wallace, because now it's about big rims instead of big poppers, less about fat bars and more about deep pockets. Masters of the ceremony have forgotten that a Rev Run himself taught us how to rock it. The mic, that is. But it and the ball, they've dropped it. So in a name, I sing. Bless all the fallen soldiers, for we now lack activists. Rappers nowadays drop names on iced out grills and a half-assed at it. So for hip-hop, seems like dusk without the dawn. There'll be no tomorrow. I apologize, Miss Shakur. A society insecure misjudged your son, and his past profession has now tarnished a genre encasing your legend Tupac Amaru. Gods of the still wills, please bless tomorrow. Crossfade this corroded culture with some conscious concoctors of verbal chemistry. Yes, hip-hop might be dead right now. It's them and the airwaves. Next, it may be me. So in a name, I sing. Resurrect Big L and give him wings. Spewing ebonics, effortlessly excellent at etching hot 16s. But hip-hop's become beat to sleep, producing nightmares and lofty dreams. A generation less concerned with the state of a nation than iced out chains and four-finger rings. We sold hip-hop for the weight of a soul in diamonds. Fell into the system's unplanned attack with perfect timing. I'll say it plain and simple. There's no use in rhyming. Rappers nowadays ain't saying it. How else is there a set of anti-political music not to be played over national airwaves that gets published, and current commercial hip-hop artists ain't make the list? Seems like this generation of degenerate rappers is unconsciously defining what catching the vapors is. And there it is, prepackaged with nothingness. Unwrap the rap in here, what nothing is. I'm at the site of hip-hop's burial reading this proclamation to what nothing is. Dear hip-hop, I apologize wholeheartedly. In reading this, I laid to rest with you a part of me. I can no longer agree to associate with the enemy, and I refuse to be represented by such commercialized ignorance. Practitioners of your profession have disregarded the importance of your elements. Rest in peace. It is you that the true heads will be missing. But for now, I prefer to reside on the opposite side of hip-hop's dividing line. Sincerely yours, Easy Listening. How you doing? You guys all right? Hello, new group in the back. Nice to see you today. I'm Carlos Contreras. I say performance poet these days. I'm a performance poet from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm here with you today. No question's a bad question. I'm taking questions kind of throughout. Does anybody have one? Fair enough, fair enough. I would say, okay, no, don't go there on him. I'd say that's a great critique, my friend. I would say that music these days has like molded and meshed and done so much that, yeah, I don't think there really is a hip-hop music these days. But, well, I guess to counteract that point, I would say that hip-hop exists like in the breath and lungs of like a Brother Ali, or a Mos Def, or a Talib Kweli. Those folks, I guess I would equate with hip-hop. I wouldn't consider Drake a hip-hop artist. I wouldn't consider Wiz Khalifa a hip-hop artist. I wouldn't consider Mac Miller a hip-hop artist. And now I'm gonna stop talking because we got people all excited. It's a controversial topic. It's a controversial topic, friends. With that said, music is entertainment. I understand that over the years, it's made to simply make people move too. I go to a club once in a while, it's okay. Questions? More questions? All right, here's a poem. So I come from a household with two older brothers and a dad who's a former Marine. You never say, what do you say? You never say ex-Marine, you say former Marine, because you're always a Marine. So in any event, I come from like a male-dominated household, a pretty like quote-unquote macho household. And so doing poetry has like always been this really weird struggle, right? Until like, I'd say recently. Everybody kind of understands it now in my household. But doing it for like the first 7 of 12 years that I've been doing it was not an easy thing. And it was kind of like a battle to fight. And then they kind of realized that this is just how I understand my life and how I understand relationships in my life and otherwise. And so what I'm getting at is my dad's a former Marine. He's a PTSD survivor and sufferer. Y'all know what PTSD is? Some folks probably do. It's post-traumatic stress disorder. So these days we're fighting a war. A lot of folks coming back from that war are coming back with this affliction. I say they come home from war with a war inside themselves. Never really leaves. So in any event, what I'm getting at is my dad had this affliction or this illness for like 20 years before he ever told anybody, right? So he pretty much raised us for our whole childhood into adulthood and had all these things that he would deal with, like not being able to sleep with the lights off. When we go to restaurants, I never noticed, but he would have to sit where he could see the exit. He don't like to stand in lines or wait, right? When it rains, my dad is not a happy person. If you know anything about Vietnam, it like rained for days and days and days and days. So in any event, right, growing up with my dad was a hard thing to do, and I didn't understand him for many, 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 many years. At the age of like about 19, he started going through therapy, doing some other things to deal with PTSD, and could talk about it. Now we get along. So for like the last 10 years, I feel like I have a dad for like the first time in my life. And he's an amazing dad. In any event, I believe in who he is and love him for who he is very much. And so this poem is about him and kind of like that belief of how amazing of a person he is, even though we didn't understand each other for quite some time. I don't believe in superheroes. Nobody is invincible. We all melt at a certain temperature and crack under pressure. So no, I don't believe in superheroes. Meaning for now, I simply have myself. An immaculate conception, talented yet foiled sense of misdirection. I don't see dead people. I hear empty souls sang through song with notes of no hope as interjections. I don't believe in kryptonite. To kill this life, there need be no injection because I don't believe in superheroes. I was born normal. Son to man and woman with two sets of hands already full so there wasn't a free limb to move mountains. Just one man's mouth to move three little men. So I convinced myself at an early age, yo, forget Superman. He ain't even half as amazing as my dad, so I'll just believe in him. Sure, he can fly to save fallen babies from burning buildings or stop a bank robbery by turning back the time. But when he held you in his arms, time didn't seem to matter so much. So I packed a brown bag for lunch, because as far as superheroes went, they didn't outfit a custom tin to showcase mine. You could always catch my superhero at the same dad place, at the same dad time. I scroll back and quickly rewind, find him comfortably reclined, my soft-chested, rough-handed pops with feet propped, my Bruce Banner fighting off the Hulk inside. Nodding off and trying not to relapse and flash back to dreams, transformations to fatigues of green, see. He fought in Vietnam. So I don't need comic books to show me how war looks and what it means. At 29, I simply need confessions that he rarely dreams. Wishes to revert, remix, and relive jungles the eyes which Daredevil sees. So when I say I don't believe in superheroes, perhaps you can begin to understand what I mean. I mean, life isn't always fantastic. So as a kid, I didn't waste time or money tugging at limbs of hers and hims wrapped in plastic. I just wrapped my eyes and ears around the stories of my dad and asked him, Dad, do you believe in superheroes? He said, sure, mijito. I believe in you. I believe in your sheer excellence and can only imagine what you'll do. I said, well then, Dad, wouldn't that make you a superhero too? He said, no, mijito. Sometimes our powers leave us when they're through. Strength only comes to those that need it, and I've passed mine along to you. I said, really, Dad? Then what is it that we do? He said, out of broken pieces, we fashion stability. Selflessly for others, we create infinite possibilities, but last and not least, we always practice complete humility. It was then when I began to believe. Realizing this superhero stuff didn't need to come with a cape and wings. And about being a superhero, I learned the very first thing. That I didn't have to believe in superheroes, but that I was a superhero if one believed in me. How y'all doing still? You still okay? Is this okay for, what day of the week is it, a Wednesday? We good? It's like hump day. We're like ramping the hump today. We have ignored the hump. We're just like right over it. In any event, I know I'm not a comedian. I try though. Questions? Anybody have a question? Questions? My dear. About who? Like another genre of music. Now I'm gonna write one. She just said, do you have a poem about like, say, like classic rock or like rock music, like Guns N' Roses? When I write get my card, because when I write the Guns N' Roses poem, you're getting it like in your personal email. I'm like, here's the Guns N' Roses poem. What's your name? Rosie. How fitting, Rosie. See? I see what you did there. I'm going to say, Rosie, here's the Guns N' Roses poem. I don't, but now I have to write one. I will. She's like, better, sir. Very, very, like, thank you for paying that close of attention. He said, I noticed in your poems, like when you reference your age, you say 29. So like, that's like a trick, my friend. Some of those were like 21, 22, but as you go through the years, you just change it, right? So some of those are really old poems that I've just changed the years on. But let me think about that. I will do a really old poem for you in just a few minutes. I gotta access my filing cabinet here. Someone else? My dear. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Someone else? She just said, it wasn't really a question, but I am very talented and God bless. And I appreciate that. Someone else? All right, you guys want to hear another poem? All right. All right, this is a long one, so you're going to have to like bear with me here. But as an artist, right, like I teach, I went to school, I have an English degree, which is a great degree, and ended up getting certified to teach in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is a great profession. But I'm like searching for more, right? Like always searching for more. And my search often leads to like right here. Like every time I turn around, I feel most at home on a stage behind a microphone. And as you talk to people in life and you're an artist, right? Like sometimes to people being an artist is like just that like comfortable thing to be so you don't have to like grow up. I like kind of balk at that idea. It's being an artist can be a career path. It can be something to be taken seriously enough to want to do full time. And I've realized that in life. So now at 29, I'm chasing this dream of being a full-time artist. And so this poem I wrote probably 7 or 8 years ago. On this path, I'm closer to being that full-time artist now. But this poem I call Art is Life, and it really talks about how when there's all these people in your life, and it doesn't matter if you want to be a doctor and someone says you can't do it, yes you can. If you want to be a veterinarian and someone says that's silly, no it's not. I just happen to say I want to be a poet, and not everybody believed in that, but I do, right? So this poem talks about if you believe in it, it's possible. I'm winding down the slow groove bass lines wound up from the pound of chest flesh heartbeats. I want to turn tables and scratch out whatever it is that's got me. Like Badu spitting wet grooves atop the roots, I'm stuck. Like a DJ caught in the groove. Don't bump the table, don't bump the table. Let me stay here for a second. Match my heartbeat to the pace and patch a broken record. What's the BPM? Turn my headphones up, pass me a mic, hand me a pen. Pass me the heart of that 8-year-old boy I was then and allow me to squeeze out an expression of what this means to him. You see, then, I wanted this, but didn't want the bad days. Chased away by cigarettes and passion lay, then back to boarding passes and carry-on bags to catch a plane. A wannabe star, consumed by a sky more like a half-flickering flame. Better used to smoke some hopes, torn between life and the desire to see my name in quotes, unquote parentheses. On the path to get here, I never knew it meant I'd be always on the road. Mile markers and gate numbers reminding me I'm always far from home. Close parentheses, period, back to the poem. A declaration of aspirations to see a billboard dedication, my name in bulbs. Sometimes, though, I wonder if I've yet to change and really just play with poems. Synonymous to sandboxes and blocks, to scribbled crayon nonsense and Oshkosh bagosh. My gosh, where's the answer? Lost in the desolate playgrounds of an 8-year-old mind, dangling from monkey bars, skipping rungs to catch a 29-year-old attention span like, look what I can do. 21 years later, it's still, look what I can do. And I've begun to think to myself, childish? Maybe. Determined? Crazy. So either way, I'm flipping on bars, resigned to work and not be lazy, shifting views of old hobby into new career, trying to get this poetry thing here to pay me. For the doubters, naysayers, and bad mouthers, the answer is easy. Sometimes when you're dreaming, you gotta bank on maybes. So maybe this ain't written for you. And perhaps it's not written for me. Perhaps the title of this poem should be Written for Dreams. This is for every child's mind that at bedtime splits the sky at its seams, because there's got to be more out there than this. This is for every dingy poem and pair of legs that stride the track of Route 66. I pen one-act plays and scribble exquisite scripts so y'all can categorize my work as genuine-ish. In fact, call me religion, because in essence, I genuflect when I spit. Hail Mary's remixes we fool with pace. Light wings to a night music and watch me fall from grace, but witness resurrection every time I hit the stage. Immaculate conceptions every time my pen hits the page, so it's for this that I give thanks. Because you see, now I want this. Anticipated it for years like a 5th grader's first kiss, so I'll take the bad days. Pen my life into poetry and chase away the issue, because it's behind a mic and on a stage when I feel most comfortable on days like this. Winding down to slowing bass lines and slowing heartbeats, figuring out it's this poetry thing that's got me. Committed to random acts of language. A once light traveler, now toting extra baggage, a boarding pass with multiple destinations, but already a star. I don't care how you chart your constellations, bleeding scripture into these ink blot incantations, because anything else would be ignoring that 8-year-old, or pretending I don't like to act like a 5th grader. I can't ignore poetry or the affliction of needing to write, so these and others I give you aren't really just poems. I give you my life. Good. Questions? Questions? Sir. Uh-huh. Says you reference DJing in your poems quite a bit. Is there a reason why? 2 reasons. First would be that, like, yes, I'm an English teacher, and I know there's other English teachers in the building. I'm about to say something, and you can't judge me for it. I don't read enough, okay? Never have. I should, and I will improve. But growing up, I didn't read a lot either. Reading's a hard thing for me. I read very, 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 very slow, okay? In any event, I'm kind of like an auditory and visual learner, so watching things about news, listening to things about news, and then otherwise listening to music was something that informed me very well in my life, and the style that I put on a stage, the way I tell a story, a lot of it came from music and musicians. Now, DJs are like the ultimate musician to me. You know, like, people might not believe it, but I feel like the turntables are like the hardest instrument to play, right? Because you're using everybody else's creation to make something new. So I have a lot of respect for DJing as an art form. I've dabbled. So I used to own a set of turntables. I used to do a lot of DJing. I don't anymore. But I host events where we host a lot of DJs, and I just think it's like one of the most incredible things in the world to watch. So for those reasons, DJs get a lot of love from me. Yeah. Do I have what? Why'd you have to go ask that? My wife's sitting right there. That's a hard, no, just play. She said, do you have or want kids? No, we don't. And it's something we're figuring out. You know, if I have kids, I hope that they do whatever it is that they want to do to be happy in this world. And why do I say that? Because my parents have allowed that to happen, right? My parents raised three very different men. We're all successful in our own ways, and we all chose our own path. And I think the reasons why we're all individually successful in our own ways is because they, aside from just trying to teach good decision making, they didn't direct us in any way that they felt we should live. They just helped us to be who we are. So if I have kids, I want them to be themselves. And I will support them being themselves as much as humanly possible. How many poems have I penned over the years? That's a hard one. Probably like over, I don't know, between 100 and 200, and I know that's a huge range. But I did, well, you know, it's way more than that. It's probably like between like 200 and 400, because I did this thing last year where I tried to do a poem a day for 365 days, and I got to like 167 days, and then life got all crazy. And, but I don't, everything I write doesn't hit a stage. That's the other thing. Like, you could do something like this, you can do a lot of it for yourself, right? Like, you can pick the things you want people to hear and write about everything, because I do. So, I don't know, I have a bunch of poetry I've written over the years. As far as like how many performance pieces, I'd say in my brain at any given time, there's probably a good like 50 to 55 that I could just, like, we could sit here for, they're like about 3 minutes a piece, so about just short of 2.5 hours, and I probably wouldn't run out of poems. Now, if I repeat something at the bookstore, don't look at me funny. Somebody else? My dear. I have a lot of tattoos. What do they mean to me? They all mean something very important. If you don't have tattoos, think about them before you put them on your body. I always say this when that question comes up, because I know they look cool, or I like to think they look cool. But before you do it, make sure you want it there, because they're permanent. They don't come off, right? So my whole right arm is a collage of different insects and kind of like wildlife. I have a hummingbird up here from my mom. They're all, like, all the figures represent something. So hummingbird on my shoulder from my mom. There's a queen bee or a bee on the back of my arm for my grandmother. There is a ladybug for my wife. And then there is a kind of like this caterpillar to a butterfly thing on the inside of my arm. I lost what would be an older sister before I was born. So she never became a butterfly, right? She was a caterpillar, and then she never became a butterfly. So they all kind of like represent something. Mom is on like my right hand. Why? Because my left hand will eventually say dad. And then I'll have this whole thing with like my brothers and my dad and important men in my life represented in my other arm. My knuckles say love poem. So it'll be like a visual love poem. Very cool. Very cool. They should all have meaning. Well, good luck with what you're doing. That's cool. That's very cool. Take it seriously. You are putting your mark on people's bodies for the rest of their life. Someone else? Sir. Thank you for that question. He said, can you talk about the work you do in the facility you work in, and have you come across people, and does it impact you, and those kind of things? It's crazy. I started working there 5 years ago, going on 6. It's an adult detention center. It's a kind of like a supermax styled facility. And I run a writing program there. So I'm in the process of building a nonprofit organization called Just Right. Just Right, as it stands, is a project that connects incarcerated populations with free world populations. So like with university students, with people that do what I do around the country, we host all writing to the same prompts online. And so I go out there weekly with a young lady that helped me create it, and we work with them for an hour at a time. We take their work, we put it online. We videotape their performances when they read out loud. We put those online. And that experience has been like life-changing. To give somebody the gift of being able to realize they're capable of speaking their mind and what's in their heart and on their chest, and it be okay, has been incredible. It's not something that I teach them to do. They teach themselves how to be open to the idea. Working in a prison, it's like, or a jail, it's you got to realize that it's an isolating situation. It's also a very like stressful situation. And if you don't give people a release from that, then we're not rehabilitating anyone at all. And so in a lot of ways, I feel like art, access to art and education are the biggest tools towards rehabilitation. And we've seen it work. So like now we have folks that have been released and are writers now. Now Albuquerque is really, is one of the cities, and New Mexico is one of the states that's highest as far as like rates of poverty. And that becomes a huge kind of obstacle for us because recidivism or going back to jail is highly influenced by lack of funds and lack of access to resources. And so we are in the process of trying to create a situation where we can have like a continuum of care, where we can continue to offer writing workshops to folks that are released. We can offer them job skill training, offer them things like nonviolent communication classes and things like that. So it's a journey and it's a process, but I did a TED Talk, if you look it up. I thought about doing it today. I don't know that we'll get to it, but we did a TED Talk on that situation, basically, and it mentions that the most creative and talented people I've really ever met in my life are behind the walls of that facility. So it's informed my life to the point where in April of next year, I have a book coming out, and the majority of the book is about experiences within that facility and working with writers and how that's really made me the writer that I am, and they are all part of that. So the project as it stands online, if you Google Just Right as one word, WRITE, you'll probably find it. We make a big point that it aims not to exploit that situation, because we do put them on videotape, right, and they're performing and they're all in their oranges. It doesn't exploit their situation, rather like exposes their humanity and creativity to the rest of the world, we feel like. So it's the beginning of a conversation that needs to be had. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but I appreciate you asking it, because writing in that capacity and in that facility has been the single most rewarding thing, I think, in my performance and writing career. You had a question right behind. Yes. Favorite poem to perform. Let's see. Ooh, here you go. I think this is like the brand new favorite. Not necessarily brand new, but a favorite, and probably will remain that way for quite some time. I have a grandmother I just lost. So in August of this year, she passed very unexpectedly. I wrote this poem for her for a Christmas present like 2 years ago, because I'm big on the idea that if you have people you love, tell them while they're here. You know, like, it's great to write things like in memory of, or to like remember someone through art. But if you love them and they're right in front of you, I think you should tell them like every day of their lives. And so this poem is for her, and she got to hear it before she left. So I would say this is probably my new favorite for those reasons. It talks about checkers. Just so you know, I know we don't like play board games anymore, so there's a reference to checkers. King me. Whose X's, whose O's? What's for lunch? Mork and Mindy replaced my everyday go-to show, and she comforted me the day I cried. The day I couldn't understand why the world would take away Laverne and Shirley. She had the answer, followed by a bologna and ketchup sandwich. She probably bought me some sort of plastic, forget about the bad morning kind of toy. Something from the grocery store, shouldn't be buying worthless things aisle. King me. Scooby-Doo and afternoon cartoons. Every day between 7:30 and 2, it was just me and her. Grandma, the lady with legs for pillows in church. The lady with kisses for bruises and old wives' tale remedies every time we got hurt. Queen of the snack cake. My day in, day out on-call taxi driver around town. King me. I think she meant to let me win. And now, I'm afraid to lose her. Because I can't imagine a world without her smile, her laughter, her bit of understanding. She's become my Laverne and Shirley. Security at the side of her. A blue hair with a heart of gold. Titanium hip and blood pressure through the roof. Still a hop and a step. Chasing great-grandchildren and raising them just like us. 20 years later, she still plays checkers, colors Dora the Explorer after breakfast, and serves Cartoon Networks for a tiny set of hands, eyes, and a mind that depends on her to be there. When she no longer is, I wonder, what will life be worth? I question life and how it works, how it leaves some broken, how some run long enough to shuffle new models off the assembly line, long enough to assemble new games of checkers in the living room, tic-tac-toe at the kitchen table with a ketchup sandwich. Why does life leave simply time for more questions and not always answers? And she'd say something like, because we're not supposed to worry so much. And that's why I love her. A lady who can laugh at herself like a slapstick film strip, drag strip shopping carts to the parking lot while doing the wave. Grandma. Queen of the snack cake, collector of casino chips, kinda. Donations off I-25, religiously. Church every Sunday and about 4 days of the week in between, faithfully. She always looked the same to me. Same from when pictures of when I was just a baby, because to me, she's timeless. Bifocals and a smile, wrinkles on a face like the pages of journals I love enough to write in. Stories always interesting. Jokes, sometimes funny. Lungs, always heavy. And for the first time, I feel like I'm always one move away from losing King me. A couple questions and then we'll end with a poem. You got a question? Yes, back there. Ooh, I like that. In my whole life, if I could choose one thing I regret the most, what would it be? That's a hard one. I would say like putting an instrument down. Like I used to play the violin. I used to play the guitar. I got made fun of for both of them by my brothers, just kind of how it was. And now I don't have time to pick them back up. So I guess I would say I like giving up on a couple things that I think I probably could have done really well at. But music is something that I've always wanted to master in some way, shape, or form. So probably putting the instruments down. Beyond that, I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot of regrets. I've recently made some decisions to chase this thing as a dream, right? And now a book's coming out. A one-man show is going to come out next year. I'm doing some things in my own performance career that I feel like I would have really, really regretted had I not just jumped off the ship and dreamed a little. So I'm trying to live without regrets in a very safe but calculated fashion. So. But yeah, putting the instruments down. I have liked your commentary and your questions today. Thank you very much. Someone else? Back there. Very cool. When I write them down, do I write them with the way I feel? I would say yes, because I don't freestyle, right? Like, I get that a lot because I'm very rhythmic, almost like hip-hop oriented as a poet. So people are like, well, do you freestyle? No, but yes, because I write and then I say it out loud as I write them down. So they've got to feel right to me. Like, I feel like if I can hear it and it feels good, then when you hear it, it might feel good, right? Like, they're like almost like songs to me. So my vocalization, don't be afraid to speak it. My vocalization very much informs whether or not, it's like my editing process. So I write to the feel of a sound of a poem, if that makes sense. One more question. Two more questions. Go ahead. Very cool. Do you write from experience or do you put yourself in people's shoes? Both. I would say, to answer your question really shortly, if you're like, I can't write, I don't know what to write about, I'm not interesting, like those are always like responses, right? When someone's staring at a page and is like in a workshop. I tell schools this, I've written about 3 things in my life primarily. I do write some character pieces from other people's shoes, but I write about who I am, where I'm from, and who I come from. And those 3 things have built a body of work in 12 years that I can believe in and stand behind. You can simply talk about your life, your experience, who you are, where you come from, and who you come from, I feel like, and it be worthwhile. Back there? Special place, don't tell my boss. A lot of them get written at my desk. They really do. The busier I feel like life is, the more I like am just pushed to create. So I used to be in class when I was a student. Sometimes just like, I kind of shut myself off and tune in. So I would say the busier I am, the more I focus, my dear. Sorry, what? Still can't hear. You're going to have to like yell at me. Who supported me? You know, I would say like and I'm not just saying it because she's in the room, my biggest supporter is probably my wife. And then my mom and dad. I'm crazy. I am crazy. Like, I work like 70 hours a week probably at the end of most weeks, 50 to 70. She doesn't freak out. You know, it is what it is. She realizes the hustle is part of the life I live. So, in any event, I have books and believe it or not, USBs for sale. Like these things that there's like 3 books and a CD on. Books are like $10. The USB I'm really trying to get like 24, but I know that's probably steep for a lot of people. We could talk. I'm not going to turn you away. I'd rather send you away with my stuff. And I do have like a Square, so we can even do like credit cards things. I have to say that before I get off the stage because I would just be like, oh man, there goes breakfast. Okay, so here's a poem. It's why I write. It's short, and if a bell rings, I apologize. If we just like stay seated, I'll try and get through it quickly. Here we go. It's why I write. Thank you guys. You guys have been amazing all day. Here's the last poem. This is an encouragement to go write today, after today, if you don't already. I do this thing right here for everyone who knows they can, but for some unspoken reason has chosen not to. They just gave me 3 minutes, y'all. I got you. This is for hip-hop heads stuffing aerosol dreams, among other things, into the overloaded pockets of backpacks. For 65-year-old queens thumbing rosary beads who just happen to be self-admitted pack rats. You're the reason why I fly the heart on my sleeve at half-staff, and the reason why I never paid attention in math class. Sorry, teachers. This poem is for you. It's a first step in mad dash towards what? Nothing. Something angry and confused, beautiful and broken. So these are the dirty pages to an open notebook that no one's quoting. This is for the passed over chapters, for the bent bookmarks and dusty spines, for the countless minds rotting behind bars lost in space and time. Not everybody has 3 minutes, so once in a while, I don't mind sharing mine. Hi. I come on behalf of beggars who, when asking you for change, aren't looking for you to spare a dime. This is a poem for not-for-profit prophets, pursuing progress and changing lives, broadcasting live from the belly of the beast tonight. On stage, you see a man who, when he can't eat or sleep, he writes for you, the mom short a 20 spot to get what little boy wants the day before Christmas Eve. For you, the strawberry face of a broken-nosed beauty who keeps telling herself to leave. And for you, the crying babies lying next to folded flags that the newly widowed wife just received last week. We hear you. We can relate to the unrest and the loss of stolen dreams between the sheets. So every time I'm thrown 3 minutes, you're on the list of reasons why I speak. My poems eat, breathe, and sleep. The nails, teeth, and streets. And maybe if we relied more on things like these and relied less on wireless, we'd realize we already have access to the best frequencies and beats for free. Every minute of our lives. So I figured y'all wouldn't mind if ours were intertwined for 3. You've been taken from so much that today I offer you this part of me. So for this time taken out of your day, you can feel like nobody's forgot you. They just gave me 3 minutes, y'all. I got you.